My name is Anele Bloch, and I'm the founder of Igugu Global. Igugu means treasure, and we're a technology company making it incredibly easy to search, structure, and finance green. So, what is green finance as we kick off? Green finance is differentiated from traditional finance in a way that's important for every business and person in this room to understand. Where traditional finance prioritizes shareholder returns above all else, no questions asked, three principles of green finance have catalyzed a fundamental change in how we finance things going forward. And that's the need for transparency around the use of proceeds, what the money is doing, the insistence that we should be pricing for the environmental intensity of businesses, and finally, we seek to maximize both sustainable economic and environmental returns. But how did I get here for the BlueTech session? 4 years ago, I was the treasurer and head of markets for Barclays in the Seychelles, a nation archipelago of 115 islands. When you're the treasurer, you're the bank's bank. You set the price of money and spend a lot of time fighting with corporate directors. But for me, the pinnacle of this was the day the Nature Conservancy walked into my office and began structuring what would become the world's first blue bond. I'm not trying to lose you. A bond is just a loan, and blue, where green is the umbrella word for environment, speaks in most instances to ocean. In this particular instance, it was Leonardo DiCaprio and a group of ocean-focused investors that were refinancing the government of the Seychelles. Where the government had been taking 12%, these investors were willing to accept only 9% if the difference would be used to protect the ocean. Three things struck me about this immediately. Number one, there were investors willing to take a lower financial return if we could show that the combined environmental and financial returns were greater. Number two, if we could structure this transaction for governments, we were only a few steps away from structuring it for businesses and people. And thirdly, we were doing this for the Seychelles, a place not visible on the world map. And I immediately thought, was anyone thinking of the rest of Africa? And this has struck me because I've left South Africa to build banking teams across East and West Africa. And I immediately recognized that this insistence on the transparency of the use of proceeds could bring visibility to so many businesses in Africa. Because you see, there's an intimate relationship between visibility and perceptions of risk. So if we could suddenly take all of these African businesses that have a high cost of funding and actually bring visibility to their impact and how they were actually building a more sustainable continent, we could drop that cost of finance and get a lot more money in a lot more people's pockets. Africa has a $1.5 trillion gap in sustainable infrastructure. This is a picture from space. It's literally dark. But don't let this fool you into thinking nothing's happening. The strip of coast between Abidjan and Lagos is the fastest urbanizing coastline in the world. There's more than 10,000 businesses that generate more than $1 million in revenue, but room for so many more for businesses not hamstrung, searching for finance, and increasingly trying to prove their sustainability. And then, at the same time, the green and sustainable asset market ticked the bucket over 30 trillion in 2022. This slide shows how closely the number of companies disclosing climate and sustainability data in Africa, that's 2%, received less than 1% of the total $30 trillion pie, despite us saying Africa is the most vulnerable continent. But that's why we built Igugu Global. We help businesses access green finance and investment, and we build the tools that help banks and investors assess the risk in their prospective investments. Our green finance marketplace is the disclosure marketplace of over 3,000 companies where we've taken their publicly available climate data, made profiles of their sustainability commitments, and suddenly made them more visible to more than 250 green funds, consistently comparing companies across 10 countries. So we're really doing away with this 50 countries in Africa and a lot of noise around regulators. We've had great traction since starting. We launched our platform in 2022, and we've built a network of incredible market and technology partners, banks across Africa, and partners we're really proud of in the tech space, such as Techstars, Seaworthy, And really working with regulators as well. The Bank for International Settlements had us work with them for 3 months on this exact problem statements. How do you connect green projects with green capital? The competitive landscape has evolved. There are 2 new competitors in the East Africa space that see that this is now a $400 billion market fixing this issue, and we're happy that there's more people entering the game. But our revenue model is one that lends us to scale because we've built for the finance value chain. We charge a $35,000 annual license to banks, and we charge a $2,000 fee for the climate wallets that companies use to manage their sustainability data. Where companies come to market with large infrastructure projects, we're able to take a 2% success fee. Chelsea and I met during Techstars in Boulder in 2021. She brings a wealth of experience on the tech side and balances out my finance brain. And we've got a great ecosystem of people behind us and institutions that believe in our work. We're currently here today starting our $1 million pre-seed raise. What that will do for us, it will help us complete the commercial negotiations with 5 banks and help us scale our platform to $32 million recurring in the next 24 months. I'm really excited to speak to all of you after this. Thank you very much.
I've got some questions for you. Ooh, and don't forget what.
And I didn't die after I finished.
There you go. Any questions for you guys? Great.
How much are you getting into green bonds and blue bonds, and where are you getting the actual investors to support those bonds?
Great question. So I was actually in Nigeria the day the first commercial green bond was issued in Nigeria, and it was absolutely overwhelming. The amount of outreach we got directly from project developers straight off the bat. In that particular transaction, one of West Africa's longest coastal protection wall was being financed at 17.5%, and through the restructuring of that transaction, the financing cost was dropped down to 14.5%. We've since attracted 4 or 5 additional projects with prospective green bond issuers, and we're also getting a lot of inbound queries for carbon assets as well. So there are a lot of large-scale project developers on the continent that are typically family offices that are looking for this sort of expertise.
Any other questions? I just have to say, the learning journey we've had with you, Anele, has been amazing. I know this is an incredible, opportunity that so many people are just getting to learn about. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you for helping me make it easy.